This one I can smell it. Now if it goes through the mash, you know it's good. Okay. Hey guys, I'm Chef Joya and this is Cooking with Compare. I am a vegan chef based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and today we are gonna make plantain waffles two ways, one sweet and one savory. Let's get cooking. All right, so we're gonna start off by making our plantain waffles, and we're gonna use the same base for the sweet and the savory, and we'll divide it later because we're gonna add a little bit extra to the sweet. Now when we're choosing our plantain for our waffles, we wanna use a sweet plantain. So therefore you're gonna look for a plantain that has a lot of black on the skin of the plantain. Now you may see other plantains in store as well. You can get these if you're not gonna cook them for a few days because they will ripen up over the course of the days and they'll turn black as well. You want to avoid the green plantains because those will take a while to ripen up and they won't be sweet at all. So we're gonna get 3 of these. Now we're gonna use a plantain that has been ripened. So we're gonna take the, take the filling off. And we're gonna go ahead and smash that. And you don't wanna put it like in a blender or anything like that because you do want the texture of the plantain and you do want all that flavor. It just makes a big difference. I know that there's places you can buy plantain flour, but trust me, I've tried it and it is not the same. So we're gonna smash that up really well. And we're gonna go ahead and add our other ingredients. You wanna make sure you have this consistency. So you see the chunks in there, it still has a lot of texture. So this is what you're looking for. Now, what I'm gonna do first before we add our flour mixture, we're gonna make our vegan buttermilk. All right, so for the recipe, we're gonna make sure we grab a vegan flat milk. Now, if you have a nut allergy, you can always use the soy milk, and they have unsweetened and regular, which has a little bit of sweetness to it. But for this recipe, I'm gonna grab the original almond breeze milk. So we're gonna take some vegan milk, about a cup of milk, and we're gonna add a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. If you don't have apple cider vinegar, you can use lemon juice as well. And then we're gonna put this all together in a bowl and then set it to the side. Give it about 5 minutes and then it'll start to curdle. Right, now we're gonna make our vegan egg and we're gonna make it out of flaxseed. You can find the flaxseed at Compare Foods, and all you have to do is put it into a coffee grinder and it'll turn into a flax meal. Once you have it into a flax meal, you're gonna take about a tablespoon for each egg. So we're going to put 2 tablespoons in here. And then we're gonna also add about 1.5 tablespoons of water, and you're just gonna mix. And this will thicken up as it goes, so you don't wanna add too much water to it because you want to have the consistency of the egg. So like when you crack open the egg and you have the egg yolk, that's the consistency that you want. So right now it'll be a little watery, but this is gonna thicken up by the time it's ready to go into our mixture. So we're gonna go ahead and sit that to the side while we wait for our buttermilk to curdle as well. So now we're gonna go ahead and make our mixture. Now typically when you're baking, you add your dry ingredients together and your wet ingredients separately, but we're gonna add our dry ingredients right on top of the plantain. It's absolutely okay. I do this all the time. I'm not even the one that likes to bake, but I know my waffles, okay? So we're gonna take about 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Next, we're gonna add our baking powder to it. This is about a tablespoon of baking powder. And then we're gonna add a little bit of baking soda. Don't want too much in here. I just like to add the baking soda and the baking powder because it makes it extra fluffy and fluffy waffles. We're gonna use ground nutmeg, but you can also get the whole nutmeg here at Compare Foods. And all you have to do is use a spice grater and you can grate the amount that you need, and it'll actually keep longer if you put the nutmeg inside of a mason jar. Next, we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of nutmeg. And this is just like a couple shakes. And that's literally, I don't even know if that's a measurement, a couple shakes. So you like shake it lightly because it's less than half a teaspoon, maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon, but it's very lightly that you're gonna use that. And we're gonna give that a nice little whip. And remember, the plantains are in and it's okay. You wanna incorporate that into the mix. Now we're gonna add our sugar. This is raw cane sugar that you can find at Compare Foods. We're gonna add about a third cup of cane sugar. And you don't need more than that. Your batter should already be sweet because you do have the right plantains in it, so that's gonna give off a lot of sweetness. So we're gonna go ahead and fold that into it. So we're gonna add our vegan egg. You see how it's runny just like an egg yolk? So we're gonna add that flax meal right to our mixture. And then we're gonna add a little bit of Mexican vanilla. We're gonna add about a teaspoon. Now we're gonna go ahead and add our vegan buttermilk. So we're gonna add that to our mix. Now it may not be the exact consistency, that's okay. All you have to do is add a little bit more almond milk to it or any plant-based milk that you decide to use. Or it just might be perfect, and I think this is perfect. So you're gonna keep stirring until it's mixed like a waffle batter, like the consistency of a waffle or pancake batter. You're still gonna have your chunks in here from the plantain that you want. That is a good thing. So once you get it to that consistency, you're gonna add about a tablespoon of coconut oil. So with that coconut oil, we're gonna use refined coconut oil. Now, if you don't mind a strong coconut flavor, you are able to use the virgin coconut oil, but I like to use the refined because it is neutral and it doesn't overpower the dish. Now this is gonna add like the fatty texture to it and a buttery flavor to it as well. With the coconut oil, you can either melt it or not. If you do decide to melt it, it just incorporate right into the batter, and you still wanna make sure you have the same consistency. If you put it in there as a solid, it's just gonna disperse through your batter and it'll cook differently, but it'll still have that fluffy and the same buttery consistency. All right, so it should look like this. And it is ready to go into the waffle iron. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and divide our batter because we're gonna save this later for dinner time or our savory waffle. So we're gonna divide that in half. Ooh. And this will keep in the refrigerator up to 3 days. So if you don't use it all at once, you can use, like I said, breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night snack. You'll have it for later. There's so many different varieties of cacao powder, and they're actually 100%. You can use this brand here that you can find at Compare Foods. We also have this brand, and even Hershey's has a 100% cacao powder here as well. And these all are different price points as well. Now for our sweet waffle, we're actually gonna make a chocolate waffle, and we're gonna use our unsweetened cocoa powder that we found at Compare Foods, and we're gonna add about a tablespoon of the cocoa powder. Now you can choose to add a little bit more sugar to this if you want to, but we're gonna add berries and have a peach mango syrup that we're gonna make. So I think the sugar amount in here is pretty good, but it's up to your liking, so do what you want. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and mix that into our batter. We're gonna make sure it's well incorporated. We still got our plantain intact. Like the chunks are super huge, guys, so like you wanna make sure you keep that texture. So it's gonna actually look like a milk chocolate type of waffle. If you want it darker, you can always use a dark unsweetened cocoa powder, but this right here is perfect. It smells so good. All right, so we're gonna take our nonstick spray and we're gonna spray both sides of our waffle iron. And then we're gonna add our chocolate plantain mix. We're gonna add that to our iron. Now you can actually make small ones and just put a little bit in there. I usually add about half a cup, 3/4 cup of batter and allow it to spread out. It actually looks pretty cool when it doesn't hit the ends of the waffle iron. So we're gonna add that to it and we're gonna close it up and it'll be ready in just a moment. So I grew up vegan since the age of 7 years old. My parents became vegan before the word vegan existed. So back then we were called vegetarians. And I remember my parents they just stopped, buying the products and say, this is what we're not doing. And it was not as innovative as it is now. Veganism has grown so much. There's so many different options. There's so many different ways to be creative with it. It's just taking your traditional items that you normally do, removing the meat, replacing it with the plant milks or the nut milks. There's so many different things that you can do with it. So let's check on our plantain. Oh, I'm excited. That looks so good. We're gonna scoop that right on out. Waffle Plantain Waffle. They're so good. I would put this on the bottom. Got a little overage on here. All right, so now we're gonna make my awesome, simple mango syrup. It's only 3 ingredients. For our mango syrup, you wanna make sure that you pick a mango that has a lot of orange and yellow spots with just some green on there. This one, I can smell it. Now, if it goes through the mask, you know it's good. Okay. So you're gonna take your mango and you're gonna add that. And you can add as many as you like. So we're gonna add, we're just gonna do a few. So let's do equivalent to maybe a mango, a half a mango. And then we're gonna add a little bit more sugar to it for sweetness. And we're gonna add some squeeze of lemon juice. Squeeze our lemon juice in there. You can also add fresh ginger to it if you want like a ginger mango syrup. There's so many different things that you can do with this, but just for the sake of that is chocolate, we're just gonna stick with the mango. And I think I actually wanna add a little bit more mango to it. A little bit of mango ain't never hurt nobody. All right. And you can also do this, like say you're not a mango fan, use strawberries, chocolate and strawberry. Goes well together. So we're gonna mix this up and get this blended. So you want to check your consistency. I like to have more of a puree mango consistency. If you want a little bit thinner, you can add a little bit of water to it, not too much though, or a little bit of agave nectar to have it more syrupier. But you want to also make sure halfway through that you check for the flavor so you can have your desired sweetness. So we're gonna go ahead and give this a little taste here. I'm gonna add a little bit more cane sugar to this. About a tablespoon, I'll say. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this blended. All right, so this is the consistency that I like to use for my mango waffles. We're gonna go ahead and add our mango syrup to it. Now it does have a thicker consistency. You don't wanna use too much of this because it's just for added flavor. And you can still use your maple syrup or whatever syrup that you like. You can use that in conjunction with it, and you top it with a little bit of blackberries. And you are done. You have your chocolate plantain sweet waffles. Now we're gonna move on to making our savory plantain waffles. Now that batter is completely done for the waffles, so that's gonna go right into the waffle mixture. But what we're gonna do is make a vegan version of chicken and waffles. Now living in the South here, it is super popular, but I am going to put a twist on it by using tofu and some other seasonings that's going to be phenomenal. So for our vegan chicken, we're gonna use organic, extra firm tofu. Now, anytime I make a meat substitute, I always use the extra firm tofu because it holds the texture and has a very meaty-like texture. Now, when you use your tofu, you wanna make sure that you press the extra water out of it, and you can wrap that up in a towel, and you wanna make sure you put a weight on it or a heavy cast iron skillet. And I had to sit for about 30 minutes to release a lot of that water. So when you unwrap it, your towel is going to be super wet because it's taking out all of that moisture. We're gonna fry that, and like I said, you wanna make sure that you use an extra firm tofu because the consistency does matter. If you use the soft tofu, it's gonna fall apart or it may taste like pudding, and you don't want your fried chicken tasting like pudding, okay? Now you can cut it to any desired shape that you want, but you never want your tofu to be too thick because it just will not taste right. The texture will make it taste odd. And anytime that I do cook tofu, I always marinate it. A lot of times tofu has a bad rap because people think that it's bland, it doesn't have much flavor, but that's not true. What you have to do is actually marinate it, because whatever you marinate your tofu in is exactly what it's going to taste like. So you have the power to change the flavor of your tofu. So whatever seasoning that you like, anything that you traditionally do with your fried chicken, do the same thing with the tofu. But one of the things that you always want to do is make sure you have a wet marinade. So this is about, say about 1/2 inch thick, and we're gonna cut them into strips. Now you can cut them into chunks if you would like to. You can cut them in chunks that way, but this is actually perfect. So we're gonna use these, and we're gonna add this to our bowl. We're gonna use this amazing marinade that you only can find at Compare Foods. It's a Peruvian chicken marinade. Even though it says chicken on the container, It does not contain any chicken fat. It even tells you this product does not contain chicken. And a lot of the items that you can find at Compare Food is already vegan. You just have to read the labels. So we're gonna take this marinade and we're gonna add this to our tofu. And we're gonna add about 2.5 tablespoons of that, and we're gonna mix it well. We want this to sit on our tofu for about 15 minutes to absorb the flavor, and you could just smear it across. If you don't mind getting your hands dirty, you can go ahead and mix it well with your hands, but be careful because you don't want to break the tofu unless you already have it in chunks, and if you have it in chunks, that is absolutely okay. This marinade actually has a lot of sodium to it already, so I'm not going to add any additional sodium directly to the tofu. Now that we have that completely covered, we're going to set this to the side for about 15 minutes. So we're going to make an awesome mango slaw that's going to be paired right with our vegan chicken and waffles. I make this slaw all the time. It is a hit and it's super easy for you to make. So you're going to start with your red cabbage. We're not going to use all of this. We're going to use some of it. So we'll just use it. We're going to cut them out that we're going to use today. And you want to cut this into small strips or julienne it. Now you can cut it across, just your preference. If you can cut it thinly the long way, and then you can cut it, again, the other way. So we're gonna add this to our bowl. And then we're gonna add some red onion to it. Now you can add as much as you like. I love red onion, like absolutely love it. But I'm gonna add half of a red onion to this, and we're gonna cut that in strips as well. Now, if I was doing a diced cabbage, then I would dice the onion. So you just want to have the same consistency as your cabbage. And the good thing about it, it's easy to give the kids so they can't see it. So they can't say, I don't like the onion. You don't even know it's there. It blends right in. And then next we're going to add our tangerine. So these tangerines I got from Compare, these are some of the best tangerines that I've ever had. Like they're super good, delicious, they're juicy, they're flavorful, and they're just perfect. So we're gonna use the juice of the entire tangerine. So if you lose any seeds in here, it's okay. Just make sure you get them out. So I try to stay right on top. And I mix my juice around. And next we're gonna use all-purpose seasoning. I love this Saison seasoning. It has like all the seasonings in there I need. I believe it has like parsley, it has your salt, your pepper, it has some garlic powder, so it has everything here that I need. So I'm gonna add that to it, a little heavily seasoned. And then we're also gonna add a little bit of this vegetable sauce that you find at Compare Foods as well. Now this you have to be careful with because it does have a lot of sodium in it, so you wanna add a little bit at a time. So let's give this a nice little mix. And we're gonna break those onions up in here as well. So once we get that all mixed in, we're gonna add a little bit of our mango, and you can use as much mango as you like, and you're gonna add a little bit of sugar in it just to hype up the sweetness. We're gonna use the same mango that I use for breakfast. I'm just gonna cut that up in like little small cubes. So we're gonna add a little bit of our cane sugar and mix it around. And if you wanna make this spicy, you sure can just add a little bit of jalapeno to it. So this is gonna marinate and sit for about 10 minutes before we're ready to use it. And so all those juices are gonna incorporate into the stuff and all the flavors are gonna marry and it's going to be perfect. So let's set this to the side and we can go ahead and fry up our vegan chicken. All right, so when we fry our chicken, we're gonna make sure that we use 2 batters. We're gonna use a dry batter and a wet batter. And you wanna make sure that you season it. Even though we season our tofu directly, we're gonna add some seasoning to our batter. So we're gonna add a little bit of all-purpose seasoning. And we just wanna mix well. So we're gonna mix that really well. And we're using all-purpose flour. So the same thing that we made the plantains with, we're gonna use it for our batter, for our chicken. And that's a good thing. You can use a lot of the same ingredients over for different parts of this recipe, so you don't have to run around and get so many different things. Once our batters are mixed with the seasonings, we're gonna make one wet by adding a little bit of the almond milk. We're gonna add a little bit at a time because we want it to be thick like a pancake mix. And one of the things that will happen as you go on, as you're cooking, it will start to thicken up. So all you have to do is add a little bit more milk. If it gets too runny, just add a little bit more flour. This chicken recipe is very forgiving, so You just may have to add a little bit more milk or a little bit more flour just to even it out. We're gonna take our tofu, we're gonna do a dry, we have our dry batter and our wet batter, so we're gonna do dry, then wet, and then dry again. Now you wanna use one hand for wet, one hand for dry. It just makes it a lot easier for cleanup. I mean, if you do still happen to get it mixed up, that's okay, it's just a little messy. So we got it dry, and then we're gonna add it to our wet. Tofu. And then we're gonna put it back in our dry. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and fry this. Ooh. So it's gonna fry for about 2 to 3 minutes. We're gonna add another one in our dry mixture and our wet. Dry. And you wanna make sure you keep your oil on medium, make sure you keep an eye on it. And the good thing about it, it's not like, so you just want a certain color and texture. It's not like you have to wait for the inside to be done because it's already vegan, so you don't have to worry about it being raw or anything like that. So usually when it starts to float to the top, that it's complete. And then you can see the color that you want on it. So we're gonna add our tofu and make sure you don't overcrowd the pan, even with regular frying, because you don't want it to get too soggy. So we're gonna add that right into our mix. And we're gonna let that fry up. It's almost done, about 2 to 3 minutes. So let's go ahead and get this out. This is perfect. It has a nice crust to it. Don't do this at home. I just touched things right out of the grease, but I wouldn't recommend you doing it. This is a perfect texture. And so we're gonna add that to our pan or whatever you have. Make sure you line it with a paper towel to drain the excess oil. So we're gonna wait for the rest of these to fry up. And we're gonna heat up our waffle iron and get our plantain waffles going. We're gonna get the rest of the tofu out. A little touch of seasoning to our tofu while it's hot so it can absorb it. And we're gonna go ahead and do our waffles now. All right, so we're gonna pour our plantain waffle mixture in just like we did for our chocolate waffle. And this is a perfect example of when it sits, it gets thicker because of the flax seed in there. So I'm actually gonna add a touch of milk to it. All right, so we're gonna grab our plantain waffles out. So what I like to do is use hot sauce and syrup, right? And I just like to take the Valentina hot sauce and I just add that directly to my syrup. And you can add as much as you like. Like I said, I am a spicy type of girl. So I tend to add about 2 tablespoons. We're gonna incorporate that into our syrup. We're gonna make sure it's combined really well. We got our hot syrup. We're gonna get our waffle out and we're gonna add that right onto our plate. Next, we're gonna go ahead and garnish our chicken and waffles. So I like to take a little bit of chopped cilantro and add that directly to our waffles. It tastes good and it makes it look even better. So we're gonna take the slaw that we made, the mango slaw, we're gonna actually add that to on top of our waffles. If you don't want on top of your waffles, it's okay. Put it right to the side, but I love this on top of the waffles. So you have that sweet mango flavor, and we're gonna add that. And it's looking pretty already. I love eating my colors. And then we're just gonna add our vegan chicken to it. It looks phenomenal. And then we're gonna add some avocado slices. It just keeps getting better, right? Add our avocado slices. When we pick our avocado, we wanna make sure we use a ripe avocado. And a good way to tell that you have a great ripe avocado is if you pick this little end stem of the avocado, you'll see it, and it actually have the color of what the avocado is inside. So this one is a very pretty avocado. Look at the beautiful green. Come to the party. All right, so we got avocado on the party. Then we're gonna take this awesome, just gotta have it syrup. And you can use as much of that as you like, but you mainly wanna get that chicken. It looks so good. Like there's no rules on syrup. You can use however much syrup you want. You might even want to drink the syrup. And then we're gonna garnish it with a little bit of green onion. So we're gonna add that to it. A little bit of green onion. And there you have it, a vegan twist on a Southern classic chicken and waffles. These are my chicken and plantain waffles.